Coming up on today's episode, Lucid has an impressive 400-mile range on their new car. Starship gets an owner's manual, and could there be an environmental positive from this whole event that's happening? We're going to talk about that. Let's get ludicrous. Hey there, and welcome to Our Ludicrous Future. This is the podcast where we talk about all the cool future stuff that's happening today that's going to make tomorrow happen. I'm Joe Scott with the Answers to Joe YouTube channel. With me is Tim Dodd.
Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut from... I guess we're all in space, right? So I can say space-ish.
We're all in
always
space.
We're kind of pretty much in space. So yeah, in space.
I mean, Earth is in space,
Exactly.
and we're on Earth.
And with us is Ben Sullins.
What's up, guys? It's Ben Sullins from Ben Sullins. Yeah.
This is what quarantining does to a person.
Yeah, did you
Yeah.
To
get
three
rid...
people, to all of us.
Yeah. But this is legit, though. You got rid of Teslanomics?
So I
Teslanomics
changed
is
the
dead?
channel name. I dropped Teslanomics from the YouTube channel name. And, you know, it's something I've been thinking about for a long time because the idea that I really honed in on, I actually did this whole kind of weird like meditation retreat deal to figure out what my purpose in life was. And I kind of honed in on this idea of like using my past skills and experience with data and analysis and basically like looking at things and finding meaning in them and then telling stories with that. And yes, while Tesla is super cool and I'm still going to talk about them a lot on the channel, I definitely wanted to be able and, you know, not have it feel awkward to talk about something other than them.
Right.
So that's why I dropped that part of the name. Now the website still exists, and until I can figure out a reasonable way to migrate that stuff off, you know, the website will still live on with all those things. But hopefully, what this means is that as you know the year progresses here, I'll be able to, or I mean, not that I couldn't before, but I'll just feel more comfortable doing things that are outside of just, you know, the latest and greatest Tesla stuff and other stuff that hopefully will help people kind of live more sustainably. So
Sweet.
that's the idea, I guess, to expand a little bit. But hopefully, you know, people will go with me on the journey. And I'm sure some people will get mad and whatever. But I think those people are mad anyways. You know,
Can't please
Everything you
everybody.
do is going to make somebody mad.
Yeah.
that's just how it is. Yeah, I feel like the real hardcore Tesla fans already hate my guts. So it's not like I like no.
Because one time you said a thing they didn't like.
Right, yeah. I was like, yeah, Elon maybe should calm down a little bit on Twitter. They're like, oh, how could you? Oh, he's the greatest.
Freedom of speech.
Well, I think it's kind of a natural progression what you're going through, because it's funny. I did a live stream yesterday with a guy that I used to work for. He's sort of a YouTube guru. His name's Jeremy Vest. But we were talking on there about how once upon a time in early YouTube, you could just be like a personality and talk about whatever, and people would follow you. And then over time, it's become a lot more specific and hyper-focused. And so now it's not uncommon for people to start off like really focused on a specific topic. And then once you get an audience, it's like, okay, so now I can kind of branch out from there a little bit. And it makes more sense after a while to sort of brand it as yourself so that you can focus on different things.
Joe, you're the black sheep there, because you can talk about literally whatever you want at any time, and it's always awesome. So
when you're me,
Well,
no, I don't know. Seriously though, I lucked out. And early on in my channel, it was a lot more random. I talked about, God help me, politics and all kinds of stuff. And then, you know, some of the science stuff kind of started working, and I kind of focused on that. So I'm still a little bit pigeonholed in that direction, but at least like. So I did a Monday video on airships and a Thursday video on octopuses. So I mean,
there's the whole gamut.
wait, is it octopuses or octopi?
oh God. Okay, so I talk about it in the video. Here's how it breaks down. So for a while there, they did want to say octopi, but that's a Latin conjugation, and octopus has Greek roots. So technically, it should be octopoda. For the Greek plural conjugation. But at that point, the grammar Nazis decided that it's actually an English word at this point, so they just applied the English conjugation, which is octopuses. So that is actually how it's supposed to be pronounced.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like with English, the rules are just whatever. Like, we really are just have bastardized language so badly that, there's no elegance to it anymore. Like, as you learn other languages, you're like, oh, wow, this is really makes sense.
These are
like,
rules.
Why is our language so backwards?
Yeah.
Well, speaking...
it's a mutt of a language. It's taken in rules from 1,000 different places.
And speaking of languages, we should probably say hi to the people speaking our language in Discord. Hi, Discord. How was that for...
Yeah, buddy. Hi, Discordians.
Hi, Discord.
Right now.
These are our Patreon supporters that are able
Patreon supporters in Discord.
Yep, they get to listen to our show every week, and I love it because people are, I think, working from home more. We're seeing more and more people every week, and I love it.
We are seeing more people. Wow, there's like actually conversations going on here.
Yay!
Now,
Conjugations.
Okay, so if a group of octopuses, what is a group of Discordian?
Yeah.
Is that
Discordi.
it? I did learn that a group of, owls is a parliament of owls.
Oh, nice.
Or is it a parliament or a congress? One of them is a congress. Anyways, it's a funny.
Is it a parliamentary system or a representative democracy?
Is it a
owls?
British owl or is it
Right.
North American?
Have you ever watched the prime minister of Britain get up and do a parliament? I don't know what you call it. I'm not using the right words here, but it's like over here in the States, it's so. Remember when that one guy yelled out at Obama and it was such a scandal that somebody would disrespect the president in that way? You watch the prime minister of Great Britain speak to Parliament, and they're practically throwing things at him.
I love it,
and it's just like, wow.
I love it, and they're like, order. Always constantly
they're banging gavels, throwing shoes. It's
it's yelling, and I love it. It's like old school. There's
do
no
you remember
order.
the guy that he threw his shoe at
Bush?
Oh, yeah.
At Bush?
Yeah.
Bush Jr., right?
He had some good ducking skills. I got to give W credit for that one. I mean, that was.
Yeah.
I remember seeing that thinking, this guy, the whole declining in mental capacity. You see W and you're like, oh my God, yeah, he's the epitome of this. But then you see the shoe come out and all of a sudden he's like, an NBA player or something. Like, what the hell just happened, man?
He was a runner, I believe, at that time, or maybe when he was a little younger.
Yeah.
And before we move on, quick shout out to our highlights channel that nobody actually knows about this.
I don't even,
because
I didn't know about it last week when we brought it up.
So if these are super long and you guys don't have the time, which first off, I know you're lying, but if you don't want to sit and listen to us ramble for 3 hours, totally get it. Instead of having timestamps within this video or this channel, we have a separate channel with each individual story kind of just clipped out. So that way you guys can just go there and get kind of the quick hits. You can ignore all the EV talk and just go straight to the space stuff, which is, we know why you're here. Okay. But beyond that, so shout out to the highlights channel. If you guys didn't know about that, 2/3 of this show didn't know about it.
What do we have a channel name yet for it? Because I can't find it on
OLF
YouTube.
Highlights. OLF Highlights. We'll put a link in the description. I think it should be in the description of every video. We could also put a card up and all that. And I don't know how to get there.
If you're listening in your car, sorry.
Pull over and...
Ooh, I'm subscribing now.
Yeah. What are you doing in your car right now?
First off, don't be scared. We are not inside of your car. Okay, this is streaming to you from the radio.
Oh man. So speaking of streaming from the radio.
Okay, stop.
They're getting worse. Wow.
I just had absolutely no segue.
Declining cognitive abilities.
How about we jump into a story? You want to jump into a story? Who wants to take a story?
Look at this. Something you'll never
Tim.
see on our podcast, our legs. So instead we get a peek at Starship's legs.
Oh, those are Starship's legs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Check this out, guys.
What am I looking at here?
So
yeah, it doesn't.
So here's what we're looking at. Let me maybe back up. There's another photo that might tell it a little bit better. We'll look at this one.
I feel like
first.
it doesn't really have legs.
rusty.
It has feet.
So you'll see. It's really cool. So we're looking up right now. The picture that I'm showing in the video. So if you're listening, sorry, yeah, basically, literally an upskirt shot of Starship. Elon was basically just underneath serial number 3 while it's on the new test stand, and it's still kind of getting this was a couple days ago, getting a few last minute tweaks and things like that. But the cool thing is he took another picture directly underneath it. So this is now looking straight up, where this big giant like rusty thing in the middle, where that is, that's where the Raptors will be mounted up to, the three Raptors. But these things along the perimeter here, I don't know if you guys you can see 4 of them in there. There's 6 in total, but those are actually the landing legs. And
those little square
things
stuck to the side.
Check this out. So
that's it.
So get this.
Is there more to it?
There's more to it, because look at this. Kimmy Tavel already made us an animation of how this works. Check this out.
Shut up.
Look at that.
Seriously?
Yep. And these are still just kind of temporary. Elon's not loving this because they're not very wide, and he said the next generation ones will like self-level and stuff. So, I was like, yes. Oh, because where was this? Elon said that he said it's very close, nice work. Those are version 0.9 legs. So major upgrades coming. Need wider span, longer stroke, and ability to auto level for uneven ground or leaning into high winds. And I said, yes, auto leveling, because that's something that people ask about all the time. Like, what if there's a boulder, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera,
Oh, yeah, landing on the moon, landing on Mars.
Exactly. Like, so having auto leveling legs is awesome. That's huge.
Neptune has really high winds.
So does Uranus.
So I said, I asked, well,
it's never going to stop being funny. It's just not.
And I just basically said that's going to be key for other bodies. Well, Series number 4, we'll probably use these for now. Good enough for these controlled environments. And Elon had a very nice, succinct answer. Yeah. But yeah, great job, Kimmy. Sorry, I said Kimmy Tavel. It's Talviti. I'm one of those people, I don't know how to, I can't read, and once it's in my head is how it is. I just thought it was Kimmy Tavel. So I'm an idiot. Yeah, Kimmy Talviti. I've seen his name 1,000 times, and that's how I decided to say it.
It's very cool.
But yeah, awesome job just nailing a render out that quick. How cool is that? So yeah. We should probably describe it for those listening. Basically, the legs are there's 6 legs, and they're pretty short. They're sticking up into kind of the lower like ring section of kind of where the Raptors are inside. They're sticking up in there, and then they fold out basically to 180 degrees and lock up against the outer perimeter of the ring. And then because they're angled a little bit, they do stick out slightly beyond the perimeter of the Starship diameter, but only slightly, like 9.1 meters or something, or 9.2 meters of diameter. But and then they have this little shock absorber, and it's pretty cool. It's honestly really cool. Yeah.
Neat.
But
has that ever? Well, I guess besides what SpaceX already done, no one else is landing rockets. So I was gonna say, is this like, has anyone ever done that design before? But I guess the answer is no.
If I may suggest, Tim, seriously, I would love to see this video. Is a video comparing all the different landing legs from like Blue Origin, Falcon 9, Starship, like just the various designs and ways that they're solving that problem. I think that's interesting.
That's a really good, thank you. That's a great video idea. There you go. I would love that. That would be a pretty easy one. Finally, I keep always saying I'm just gonna do an easy video quick, and
you'll find a way to make it 2 hours long.
I get into the actual like individual
the alloys
physics
of the metal
and
the pressure of each. Yeah.
We have a good question in Discord. Let's see. Dakota was asking, how are they going to clear the engines? So you can see at least when there's 3 of them, it doesn't matter. When there's just the 3 inner Raptor engines as they currently are, it won't matter. They can clear it no problem. Later versions, when they have the vacuum Raptors, they're going to have to change that design. It won't clear the big vacuum nozzle bells. So for now, I think this is just a simple, fancier thing that they had on Star Hopper, because Star Hopper was literally just like those posts, like just steel tubes. And this is definitely a fancier version of that. So yeah, I think once there's more than 3 Raptors in there, we'll start seeing things change.
So go ahead, Ben.
Has anyone ever tried the bell nozzle, kind of like those camping cups that like collapse and then they go and pop out?
Yes.
Yeah. That seems like it would be a neat way to save space, assuming you need to do that.
Yeah, and to be able to do both sea level and vacuum.
Let me show you guys something.
Smart. Well, actually, so I was about to ask a sort of similar question, but not really.
Well, you're describing basically the engine that's in the Delta IV, the upper stage for the Delta IV. It's the RL-10B2, and it's pretty much the most efficient rocket engine because it has this extending bell nozzle.
Yeah.
And so the idea is it's not necessarily so they can use this at sea level and then have an bell extension, for vacuum. It basically is all for vacuum only. But the idea is, and this would be imagine this math. If the longer this bell extension is, the more efficient your engine is, right? But obviously bell extensions weigh a lot. But not only do bell extensions weigh a lot, but think about the inner stage, right? So if you had a bell extension that was this long, let's pretend the whole engine is like, let's say it's 5 meters long, something stupid long, right? And you had 5 meters of an inner stage on the actual rocket. That's basically the difference. Is like, is it heavier to have, is it higher performing to have a taller inner stage that can fit just that normal engine? Or is it more efficient to have a smaller inner stage and crunch that engine down in half like this? That's the engineering trade-off.
Right.
Because, all they're doing is saving space and adding complexity, really. But still really cool. And that will be
look at that.
On Starship or on
that
on
took me
SLS.
no energy at all, and I just came up with the best designed rocket engine ever. You're welcome.
Oh, Ben. But that's not all for Starship news. Did you guys know there's something really, 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 really exciting happening this week?
No.
Some really nerdy payload thing. Oh, no. They may be testing something, right?
No, you were right.
No. I was like, wait, it's not that cool. That's it.
They're putting
Okay.
people up.
Starship.
Oh, no, that's not.
Users Guide 2020, ladies and gentlemen.
Dun.
So this is like Joe, you said it right in the intro. The owner's manual for Starship came out, basically. And this tells customers, future potential customers, kind of the restrictions and the, what they need to know before they build a satellite for this vehicle, or if their satellite can fit on this vehicle, basically. So it does give you a lot of details. Now, here's the deal. This is basically 6 pages of Starship goodness. Well, 5 if you don't count the title cover. And ones for, like, say, the Vulcan, the Atlas, tend to be about 150 pages. So we'll say this is preliminary. But it
the
still
cheat
does.
sheet.
Yeah, it's just the Cliff Notes version, but it still does give you a few really nerdy things, like the exact dimensions of the actual payload size. But one of my favorite things is this is the first real detailed thing that we've shown how it will deploy payloads in Starship.
Yeah, cool.
How cool is that? So for those listening, the cargo version will basically, and we've seen this before, kind of where it's like an alligator mouth almost opens up from the top. And then how you still get the payload out is then the payload adapter will have to tilt up about 45 degrees. So if the whole opening is, we'll say 70 degrees, and then you tilt your payload up 35 degrees, so it splits the difference, so it doesn't bonk the nose or bonk the the top of the mouth on its way out. And I think that's really cool.
So I guess when they deploy, the whole ship will have to tilt down about 45 degrees so that it stays even as it comes out, right?
Well, I don't
or
think
otherwise it would like go up in a different trajectory, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but that's like time, like not even a meter per second. It's like 0.01 meter per second, change of velocity. So it's not like a big deal. I mean, yeah, if they're
I
really
just figured
worried,
over the long term that would matter.
all these satellites always have like station keeping. They always have somewhere
fair
to,
enough.
control their position in space. So, I don't know if it's necessarily, sometimes like Starlink, they just throw those things out the back and then the satellites figure out how to.
They do literally fling it.
They literally fling them very randomly. So although it needs to be in a specific orbit, the difference of flinging or ejecting at any different angle really doesn't matter at that point.
Okay,
It's literally about nothing compared to the thousands and thousands of meters per second to be able to get to that point. But the cool thing here is they talk a lot about in this that they could take up multiple 1 to 3 geosynchronous telecom satellites in one launch. So that's awesome because Starlink or Starship could just go up, deploy 3 huge geosynchronous satellites. Each one could be 7 tons, because they even included down here, which is nuts. Like that's a big geostationary satellite. 7 tons would be a very big one, and they can set because they can send 21 geosynchronous or satellites to geosynchronous transfer orbit. The normal 1800, they call it GTO 1800 is kind of what it's called. But what's funny, I took this number, the number that it takes to actually get 21 tons on a geostationary transfer orbit with Starship, assuming that the Raptor vacuum engines have 380 seconds of specific impulse and the dry mass of Starship is 120 tons. That actually means they need 135 tons of fuel to be able to go from low Earth orbit out to geostationary transfer orbit, meaning that low Earth orbit number, it says mass to orbit. They're saying in the user guide 100 plus. They sandbagged that because in order to do 21 tons to geostationary transfer orbit, this thing needs to be able to launch 156 tons into low Earth orbit. So in other words, Starship will technically be capable of over 150 tons to low Earth orbit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what about size though? Like the size of the payload bay as compared to say a normal fairing and what we already have up there.
So we've known it's around 1,000 cubic meters. The actual usable volume equates to be a little closer to 800, maybe a little more than 800 cubic meters. For instance, New Glenn King Everyday Astronaut. I don't know because I just had this chart in here. Here's the different payload fairing sizes. So Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy is 145 cubic meters. So that's what?
Wow.
5 times bigger. The biggest one that will be on the market up into, unless Starship beats it. But if New Glenn is the first one to deploy something out of these massive fairings, their fairings are huge at 458 cubic meters. So, so Starship at over 800 will be absolutely nuts. Wow. Yeah. And even like the 5-meter fairing that we see on Delta 4 and, the currently on the Atlas 5 and stuff, that's about 230 cubic meters. So, yeah, this is huge. Huge, and not only big in volume, but big in payload capability. This thing is capable like on all fronts. Yeah. It's just what happens when you build a huge mega rocket that's extremely efficient. It's absolutely nuts.
And we're going to be seeing a lot of we're going to be seeing payload stuff going up long before people actually go up on that thing.
Yeah, I think they'll be plenty busy just sending up stuff. I think if this thing turns out the way it's supposed to, let me give you my current Tim Dodd gut feelings of the progress for Starship. I think by the end of the year, we'll hopefully see at least a full scale, almost stacking attempt of both super heavy booster and an orbital ready Starship. At this pace, at the fact that they're able to crank out that many rings of a serial number 3 in like literally 2 or 3 weeks, there's no reason they couldn't build a super heavy booster stacked in a month worth of weld time and stacking. Obviously, I think at this point the biggest limitation is the number of Raptor engines that they can produce, because they'll need at least 15, 20 on the first super heavy booster just to be able to achieve orbit, and at least 3 on the Starship, and it'll be inefficient, but at least they can test out their orbital capabilities. And I think at this point, I think they could go for an orbital test this year. I think what we're looking at right now, serial number 3 is the one being tested on the pad as we speak. I have it pulled up on my other screen here. They're doing a cryo test of that today. They're going to hopefully static fire in the near future, probably within the next week, do a 3-engine Raptor fire, and then hopefully within the next week after that, do a hop. If that hop goes well, they might do a couple hops with it, whatever. And then, boom, onto serial number 4. That will be the first one with the wings. That'll do the suborbital stuff, the higher 20-kilometer. I could see that happening. Let's see, we're beginning of April. I could see that maybe happening the beginning of May. And if that goes well, then I think we're on track to see, some orbital attempts. And at that point, there could be some explosions and stuff like that. So, but I think by the end of the year, we could see an orbital attempt already of Starship, which would be insane.
Are they still working, or are they shut in?
They
sheltered?
are still working because they're considered a part of their defense and part of
Got it.
Like service and stuff like that. Like it's I don't know if it's Department of Defense or if it's
Space Force. Dun dun dun.
Yeah, they're considered an essential service though. Believe it or not.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
So nutty stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
It sounds like a really efficient vehicle.
So what's another really efficient vehicle that we may be seeing soon?
Well, good thing you ask, my good friend.
Oh, Lucid.
I had no idea. I was just gonna.
Lucid, the EV company of days past, if you guys remember, they were like here, then they're gone, then they're back. Not to be confused with Faraday Future, who I think is finally gone. I'm not quite sure. But these guys are actually still doing their thing. They came out with this prototype EV a while ago, and then it kind of went nowhere, and now it's back. And they have a prototype of the Lucid Air. Air is the name of the car itself. And it shows a 400-mile real-world range test. They drove it from San Francisco to L.A. without having to recharge. In the video, there's kind of a funny point where the follow vehicle, the one that they're filming with of the car, had to stop and get gas, and they didn't. So there's like a photo of the truck.
That's cool.
Anyway,
that's pretty great.
So this is pretty neat. Now this was for obviously folks watching. This was filmed before there was a shut-in and a lockdown or any of those kind of orders in California. So this was prior to all that, and they just put out the video. And it's pretty neat. So they have this concept of this thing called a smart range, which they're trying to do it by what they call extraordinary efficiency rather than an enormous battery pack. So cool. I don't know. I haven't seen the details. Maybe they have it somewhere about how many kilowatt hours this car actually has.
Were they going over 30 miles an hour?
Yeah. Yeah. So they actually said... Lucid claims to have been cruising at 70 miles per hour on the 5, which is the freeway coming back, which is pretty cool. So so some of these shots, a lot of it is this coastal stuff, and you're like, yeah, of course it works on the coast because you're going 40 miles an hour,
right?
But don't forget that Tesla did this already in a Model S, or Motor Trend did, I should say. So it's not unheard of. They ended at the Santa Monica Pier and all that, but really cool stuff. Really excited about Lucid, that they're actually doing this. Some more context about them. They just recently broke ground in Arizona on their factory, which, being from Arizona, I say Casa Grande is how you say it, but speaking Spanish, that just pains me to say that. Anyways, so they just broke ground. I think now Arizona may be under a shelter-in-place lock-in thing, so I don't think anything's happening too much on the factory build-out, or maybe it is. I don't know. But that's coming along. They're hoping, I believe, to have a production version of this car delivered to somebody this year. That may get pushed back, obviously, with the event happening. So we'll see.
Somebody is just the owner of the company.
Huh? Yeah, right.
Somebody that gets delivered to is just the owner.
Yeah.
Of the company.
But it's happening, and if this comes to market and is a real thing, then I think we're looking at some good competition for the high-end EV market. And if they're able to pull this off with not a 200 kilowatt hour battery pack or something stupid like GM is talking about doing, then more power to them, man. I'm really stoked on this. I think we all should be excited about this.
I definitely think that the focus on efficiency is extremely important, because really at the end of the day, like that has such a big ripple effect, even in the cost of the vehicle and the impact of how many batteries you have to make and things like that, how much energy you need to produce. Efficiency is king for sure. Now remind me, is this the company that had, what was the one that used to have the LiDAR puck that came out of the hood? Was that Lucid, or was that?
That was Faraday.
That was Faraday. Okay.
Yeah, I think honestly, one of the missteps of these new EV startups is that they're also trying to create self-driving cars. Mm-hmm. I honestly think they should just bail on that whole thing, like
until someone else develops that technology and sells it to them.
I mean, Tesla has gobs and gobs of data, like magnitudes of data above anyone else in terms of to develop the algorithms for self-driving. Mm-hmm. outside of that, they threw 6 or 8 cameras on the car that are $50 each or something like that. There's really not much to self-driving hardware. It's really all in those machine learning models and the data that you need to feed them. That's like where the bulk of it is. And so just don't give it enough to be impressive. Do the driver assist type stuff. Like if you could give me Autopilot 1, which shouldn't be that hard knowing what Tesla's already doing and reverse engineering and stuff, I think most people would be really stoked on that. So if you can pull that off, just do that. Like or maybe 7-10 years from now, think, oh, maybe Tesla will license this to us. Or
license it from Mobileye. You can literally buy these packages from. Why would you focus your resources as a little company? Like that?
Exactly. Like just having a really awesome car that's electric, I think is a good, that's hard enough. Like, do that really, really well and have some driver assist features and worry about, like people coming out wanting it to be fully autonomous from day one is, just idiocy. It's, like, the dumbest. It's, like, a great way to guarantee your product's going to fail.
Right.
So bail on that whole thing. Do kind of on this realm. They did say that the CEO expects this car to get 4 to 5 miles per kilowatt hour. And this is a full-size luxury sedan. This isn't, a Model 3 midsize or anything like that. So it's pretty good.
That's 100 or an 80 kilowatt-hour battery pack. That right there tells us
for 400 miles. Yeah. So, I mean, it's impressive. It's not like a solid-state battery or something like that where you're like, oh, it's 10 times or something stupid. But it's good, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I really think in the medium to far future term of what's going to be going on with driverless cars and electric cars and everything, that there's just going to be 1 or 2 platforms, probably 2. I think these things tend to go down to 2 competitors, but 2 platforms that the cars will operate on, and everybody will just license from that. Like Android and iOS, basically.
Qualcomm, I'm telling you. It's the Qualcomm model, right? Qualcomm's in every single smartphone in the world, and nobody even knows who they are, or very few people really know who they are, what they do. So that's where Tesla really, I think, is going to become a $1 trillion company. They're very early days in terms of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, in terms of other car companies coming out.
I actually had a fun segue. Can I do a segue? Because it's the only one I've ever had. Ever.
Okay, Tim.
It'll be quick. It'll be quick. Speaking of things that died and came back, because Lucid, he said, was coming and then going and then dying.
You've been hanging on to that for a while now.
I know.
Yeah.
I was thinking Easter's coming up. I don't know what you were talking about.
Do you guys recognize this?
That was in Flight of the Navigator.
I recognize it from Twitter.
The worm logo is back, baby. The worm, NASA worm logo
I've never heard it called the worm logo before until today.
Yep, this is the NASA
I get it, but
worm logo.
Now, was it called the worm logo when they were designing it? They're like, okay, guys, so we all get in a meeting, right? We have the worm and we have the caterpillar. Which one are we going with?
I don't actually know.
We want you to take this logo and make it look like a worm. Because nothing says space like worms.
Space worms. No, get this though. So this was basically when the space shuttle program began. In the 70s, when it was under development, of course, the space shuttle didn't take off until 81, but under the shuttle program development, 1975, they came up with this worm logo, and it ended in 92. So basically, the beginning of the shuttle program was this worm logo, and then it died and became the meatball logo again. NASA went back to, Joe, your shirt is the traditional meatball logo there.
That's what that one's called?
Yep.
Is that seriously what it's called?
I mean, that's what people just call them, Meatball and the Worm, just to signify.
Oh, that's my favorite new cartoon, Meatball and the Worm. they're private detectives that work together. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. But yeah, anyway, all of a sudden, Jim Bridenstine shows us the Falcon 9 that's going to be carrying humans for DM2 on Twitter, and it's got a big fat worm logo on it.
That's a Falcon 9. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. So we're going to see a big fat NASA worm logo on the Falcon 9, and I think that's so awesome.
Dude, your shirt, Tim, I mean, your logo is a bit of a worm logo.
It is. It's using that style of font. Yep.
Never actually really.
So wait a minute. Okay, so DM2, this is one people are going on.
Yep.
Are they going to the moon?
More news. No. They're going to the International Space Station.
Okay.
Artemis program and SLS Orion. That's the moon stuff.
See, you keep bringing that thing up. I'm telling you, it's not. Anyways, okay, and it's going on Falcon Heavy then.
No, wait for what?
DM2 is going.
No, that's
up.
Falcon 9.
That
Just
is literally
one?
the first one with people on it, and they're going to go to the space station.
So what is taking so long? Is it the capsule we've been having issues with? Because the Falcon 9 is like, we're pretty solid with that one, right? Like, we know that's not going to blow up.
Well, remember we just lost an engine 10 days ago, but I mean, that's why you have multi-engine out capabilities. But no, why it's taking so long? Yeah, it's mostly like the parachutes have been just a pain. Remember they had DM1 last year, over a year ago. Mm-hmm. That went swimmingly. That was perfect. But then they blew up a capsule before they're getting ready to do this, the Dragon tests, the Super Draco test. And then they finally did the in-flight abort test this year, which was about 10 months later. So it's been
explosive.
It's been a while. It's been quite a while. So, yeah.
They're still ahead of Boeing, so.
Yes, they are.
I mean, they are.
Yep. Seriously. So there you go.
That's cool though. I didn't know they were doing that for the DM1.
Mm-hmm. DM2. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. DM2. Sorry.
Yeah. The first.
For the
Super
DMT.
Cool.
I only do DMT. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, I was saying this before the show, but I still think it's kind of funny because, like, the old school logo, and then in the 80s they switched it to this futuristic looking one, and then they're like, let's do a retro nostalgia thing. So they kind of went back to the old one for a while, and now they're doing Nostalgia Part 2, going back to the new logo.
You know what it is they fired the graphics department is what happened.
It's just a really old Falcon 9.
Yeah, it's been sitting around in the hangar since 1992. We got more to talk about. Ben, go back to your segue now. Try to segue out of that.
Fine.
I'm just out here to destroy segues, basically.
Speaking of launching things, Toyota and BYD, which is a Chinese electric car company, for those unfamiliar,
that was actually pretty good.
Are launching a new electric car company in China because China is forcing them. That's the only reason. Official statement: they're developing BEVs, battery electric vehicles, that appeal to customers. Hey.
Oh, that's a good thing.
That's a novel concept. Interesting.
Students, welcome to day one of business school. Step one, make products that appeal to customers. Not you, internet service providers. You can skip this part.
I see them standing around a boardroom. The guy's like, I've got a crazy idea. What if we make this one appeal to customers?
No, we can't. No one's ever done that in the history.
It's just crazy enough to work.
Well, I mean, it's Toyota.
Golly.
Let's set the bar low here for them, okay?
They are by far the biggest car company in the world, so they don't care what we have to say about them.
That's true. Actually, the whole board right now is crying as soon as this episode comes out, and they have a board meeting. Just listen, they're being mean to us.
He's dabbing his eyes with $100 bills.
That would be the best thing ever. Okay, so now this is not super surprising because Toyota has been doing a few things, kind of putting pieces together here. Last year, they announced this battery partnership, and they have a deal with CATL, CATL, which is makes the battery cells and stuff like that. So this is all just kind of to be expected. The official name. Any guesses? It's very creative.
BYD Toyota EV Technology Company Limited, BTET.
Man, you are good. Yep. So, certainly the marketing.
Guessed.
The marketing team spent, probably weeks on this name. BYD Toyota EV Technology Company. I'm just.
Do they have a worm logo for it though?
Really? Yeah, they should bring back the worm logo. So 50% ownership in Toyota. They should just slap NASA on the side of it, and maybe it'll sell. Yeah. I don't know.
It would make it appealing to customers.
Yeah.
I do have to point out that the people at NASA spaceflight had a hoot when Ben was like, "Wait, you can just have the word NASA in your." Thing. I was like, yeah, they're covering NASA spaceflight, so of course.
Right, yeah. I'm going to make a new electric car company. Just call it NASA Cars. It's totally legit.
NASA
actually, That's what's funny. There actually is already, back in the day when I was doing Instagram always, and I would hashtag NASA, if you look up hashtag NASA, most of it is cars.
What?
Because that's also the National Autocross, whatever, Society of America or something. I don't know.
That's funny.
Yeah, like
side tangent here for a second because we got time. People, you ain't got nowhere to go. Last night I was doing this thing I was researching a lot of NBA statistics, and I needed photos of players for this chart I was doing. And so I got most of them, but not all of them came across. And so I had to go research. And a lot of these are like old timers, right? From like the 70s and 80s and stuff. And some of them have the same name as like a current celebrity. And so you'd search for them, and you just could not find a photo of them anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
So if you ever really want to have like anonymity online, just like change your name to a famous person, and no one will ever find you.
Michael Jordan.
Exactly. Like if you search Michael Jordan, the picture of Tim is not coming up. No way. It's not happening. So anyways.
By the way, real quick, I looked it up. It's the National Auto Sport Association. Wouldn't they think, hey, maybe being called NASA might not help our case?
Could they have been around before NASA?
No. I don't know.
What came first, the rocket or the automobile?
I mean, people were racing cars before they were flying rockets.
Touche. And there's a $45 membership fee. How long is that? Have they been paying for that before now? I don't know. Anyway, keep going. That was the dumbest side tangent ever.
So Toyota is getting into the game because China is forcing them to, as predicted by pretty much everyone. Hopefully, and now that China's recovering from the event here, hopefully, well, we know that the Tesla factory is back online. We should have, maybe by the time people are watching this, we should have some production numbers to see how that's actually going for them. Because Tesla in China is going to absolutely take over the EV market because they are one of the few companies that still qualify for the tax incentives because they make longer range battery electric vehicles. So, yeah, so China's forcing people's hands here, unsurprisingly maybe, but hopefully it's good for the planet, and so I'm in favor of it. Hopefully they do well, and these are really compelling products, and Toyota says, hey, maybe we should sell these other places instead of just where we're absolutely forced to. That'd be nice, Toyota. So if you're listening, CEO of Toyota.
Well, hey, how about we pay some bills real quick?
Oh.
Y'all be down for paying some bills?
Let's do it.
We do have a ludicrous sponsor today, and that sponsor is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning platform, literally thousands of courses from some of the top experts in the field. So, Ben, you play guitar.
See? Yes.
You play, what's it called? Flamenco guitar?
Classical and flamenco, yeah.
Yep, that flamingos. He's always playing flamingos.
and Tim, you have like whole albums of music, and you did the music that we play at the beginning of our show and everything.
Well, and of course the why don't they just music? That's the most important thing.
We don't talk about that.
Which we all.
There is a course on Skillshare if you are now homebound and you want to like work on some skills and stuff like that. There is a course. I think I can actually pull it up here. Shall I share my screen so that we can see this? Here we go.
I might need this. Learn how to mix music with young guru. What does he do when he gets old?
I always wondered that about Boys to Men. Like, when are they just going to be men to old guys? Anyway.
Men to geriatrics.
Well, so I have actually started trying to play the guitar a little bit now because when I was a kid, I was really into music. And I played a lot of music. I wrote a lot of songs, and they were terrible, but I really enjoyed it. And I decided I was going to start like picking up music again. So this kind of stuck out to me. I thought if we're all kind of sitting around and having some extra time on our hands, possibly stuck at home, time to kind of learn some new stuff, right? Actually,
for me, I'm dead serious. This is something I've wanted to do. I want to remix music because I have like libraries of music that I have not released. And my biggest holdup is I hate mixing and mastering. So maybe I will actually do this.
Yeah, try
Go
it.
learn from Young Guru.
Well, so this guy, he's got, well, first of all, let's talk about Young Guru for a second. He's a Grammy-nominated music producer. He's worked with Jay-Z, He's worked with Beyonce. He's worked with Drake, Eminem.
Baby.
You've heard of some of them.
I've heard of them.
In this class, he teaches you the basics of audio engineering, how to mix music, add effects, create tonal balance, all the other stuff that'll give you a foundation for creating music that you will want to show off. And this is actually just one of several courses he's got. He's got
Nice.
an actual recording session with, probably not actually with Jay-Z, but to kind of show what he did with Jay-Z, some DJing stuff, learn how to master songs like a pro from home. Again, from home.
That's what I need right there.
Very valuable skill right now.
Totally. So let me throw up a little bit of Skillshare sizzle reel stuff while I talk about Skillshare. This is just one of several classes they do. You can also learn business essentials, graphic design, marketing, video production, cooking, basically anything. If you're interested in it, there's an expert ready to teach it to you on Skillshare. So you can join the millions of students already learning on Skillshare today with a special offer. It's just for our listeners. Skillshare is offering our Ludicrous Future listeners 2 months of unlimited access to thousands of classes for free. To sign up, go to Skillshare.com/OLF. Again, go to Skillshare.com/OLF to start your 2 months now. And because we all have the attention span of goldfish, we got to say it one more time. Skillshare.com/OLF. Thank you to Skillshare for supporting this channel and for everybody out there who wants to learn some new stuff in this crazy time that we live in.
Now is a good time for that, for sure.
Yeah, baby. Speaking of it's time to learn. How am I doing today, guys?
I feel like we lose a subscriber every time we do a segue. Like there's just somebody, it's just like, I can't hear another one unsubscribe.
Yes, absolutely. An angel gets its wings every time someone unsubscribes. Or whatever. Well, I learned, get this. This is actually really big news. So after DM2, we were just talking about DM2 a second ago, right? The first operational, or the demo mission, basically, where they're going to fly crew up to the International Space Station for the commercial crew program. NASA just announced, totally out of the blue, I had no idea this was coming, they're adding 2 more crew members to their first actual crew flight. So so that'll be called, I think that's just called Crew 1. I don't remember.
Can you do that? There's
yeah, there's
hey,
4
we got
seats.
a couple more seats in the back. Hop in.
They literally have 4 seats on that Dragon capsule that they can utilize, and they're utilizing it.
Does it have third row seats in the Dragon?
Oh.
No, I wish.
That would be the Model X, the DMX model.
No, but this is really cool. So Shannon Walker, congratulations, NASA astronaut Shannon Walker. You've been assigned. Come on down. You're going to be riding the Crew Dragon for Crew 1. But what's cool?
You're going to the island.
But so this was previously Mike Hopkins. He's been on the list forever. Victor Glover, who I've hung out with and talked to randomly at a brewery one time. It was hilarious. He's an awesome guy. It'll be his first flight. And then get this was the other one, is out of nowhere we get astronaut Noguchi Sochi. This is an astronaut who's already flown quite a few times, but this is a JAXA astronaut, so a Japanese astronaut. And so JAXA basically bought a seat already with NASA and with SpaceX to go up on this mission.
Sweet.
How awesome is that? Yes. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that they were already planning future. I mean, I assumed that they were making plans for future Dragon missions, but I didn't know that they already had like crews involved and everything.
yeah, for some reason, this makes this program really come to life for me. Like, I don't know if I just wasn't. I've been paying attention, but like, they all just seem like demos and like, okay, cool, like maybe, but like all of a sudden now we're seeing the manifest expand, and this will be the first time 4 people have flown, like more than 3 have flown to the International Space Station since the shuttle.
Wow.
And think about what that does on. So now all of a sudden, too, our normal limit right now on the ISS is 6 astronauts at a time, because the Soyuz can only take 3 up, and they can only have 2 of them, up at a time. Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden we're adding, 15% more people, or whatever. I guess 15% more if you have 7 instead of 6. And they say that ends up being able to almost double your science, because if you have a 7th person on station, so much of station is literally station keeping, like quite literally station keeping, that basically is the majority of the time spent by the crew. And if you have another person on there, they can basically just do science. And so therefore, like, it's a huge efficiency gain to go from 6 to 7. And it's really bad if you go from 5.
So you're bringing up a janitor is what you're saying.
Or you're bringing up purely a scientist, basically. Yeah. Or vice versa, whatever the assignment
Joe,
is.
Congratulations, you get to go. But hey, by the way, there's just one thing. We just got.
You're gonna be the trash man.
Bring a broom.
Yeah, you're just gonna be cleaning the whole time, but you get to go.
Exactly. But I thought that was awesome.
And I would say yes.
I thought that was awesome. Yeah.
That is cool.
That's a fun one. This is a big week, I feel like.
Yes, it is.
Anyway.
Joe, is there any big news you have to share with us today?
No.
Okay, that's it, folks. Thanks. Be here all week.
An hour, ludicrous. Oh.
Well, so okay, hang on. I've got like 20 things up on my screen right now, and I'm not organizing them very well. Sorry, guys.
And you're just trying to find the one. So
this is only our 78th episode. You'd think I would have figured something out by now. Well, so there's a conversation that's been going on about the event that's happening right now, and whether or not it might have lasting impacts on the environment. And there's gradations in how we can talk about this, because you don't want to sound too flippant about the vast human misery that's going to be coming out of this thing and say, yeah, but the air is going to be cleaner. Calm down, right? Yeah, you can see the bottom of the Venice canals.
Right.
What's the problem?
Right.
So I don't want to sound like that. But there are some economists who have been kind of, trying to see what the ripple effects are in all kinds of directions, and there's always positive and negatives. And one of the positives might be that, several cities, their air is cleaner. There's been some satellite photography over China and shown, like, in the areas where it was locked down, that, a lot less. We talk about carbon dioxide all the time, but if you park your car in a garage and turn it on, it's not carbon dioxide that's going to kill you. It's the carbon monoxide, and it's all the particulates, and what is it, nitrous oxide, whatnot that's in there.
Yeah.
Somebody's slamming their head on the table.
No, that's right.
Listening
I
to me
remember
talk
just
about
that
this right
pollution
now.
video. Yeah, nitrous oxide and carbon monoxide are the two that'll kill you.
Yeah. So there's a couple of articles that I was looking at here. This one's from BBC, talking about pollution and greenhouse gas emissions have fallen across continents as countries try to contain the spread of the new coronavirus. Is this just a fleeting change, or could it lead to longer lasting falls in emissions? Now, this is all predictions, so there's no way to say definitively one way or another, so I'm not going to even claim that as we start talking about this that there's an actual answer here. But there was a guy... Ben, did you get the name of the guy that was on Freakonomics?
Well, it was a girl that was talking about it, who was...
okay. Well, then there's two people that have been saying this then.
But it was a guy in the French... ministry or something that is in charge of this for France, and he was talking about potentially more people are going to live now because of the air is so much better, so the net casualties will be a positive, like more people will actually live out of it. Jeez. And so that's it's kind of nuts to think, and I don't know, it was a kind of an offhand comment. It wasn't like we've researched this, and first off, you can't, because you can't predict this. The best, smartest data people in the world can't build a forecast model that is going to accurately predict any of this. So, take all of that with a grain of salt.
Dying from pollution is like decades of you being exposed to, carcinogenics. It's not that, we turned it off for a week, therefore a week of people won't die from pollution now. It's like, no, it was the previous 36 years next to the coal power plant that killed them.
So I did listen to this Freakonomics episode before we hopped on here this morning. It's Marshall Burke, an economist at Stanford, who was talking about this, on this one anyway. And they're always being very cagey. They don't want to overstate it, and they don't want to, they're very careful to be like, these are predictions. These are, not hard and fast rules or anything. But right here, it says, I calculated this reduction in pollution will likely save 50,000 lives across China.
See how?
Yeah, that's huge.
It says directly so far there have been around 3,000 lives lost to COVID-19 in China. The number continues to go up, but China seems to have really turned a corner on this. So it's about 20 times higher than deaths saved from air pollution. So he's making sure that, again, we're not downplaying the actual problem that's going on here, but it's just a kind of an interesting discussion to have.
Let me share my screen
and so
right
this
here.
BBC, here, I'll jump out there. This BBC article is basically arguing like, we're looking at this sort of like immediate impact of how fast the environment can actually clean itself after we stop pumping crap into it, But then there's the longer term thing of when this comes out in, let's say, 6 months to a year, when we finally kind of get over all this and can get back to what is normal. The normal might have changed a little bit. A lot more people might be working from home.
Yes.
We might find a lot of the factories and stuff that we were doing didn't really need it. We might get more essential about the way we conduct ourselves moving forward. And that might be a temporary thing. We'll go right back to the extravagance and overspending and everything that we used to do. But
sorry to interrupt Ben and Joe, but one of my favorite stories on that topic is one of my family friends, a lawyer in DC or in the DC area, that twice a week has had to always go to Baltimore to file something manually with paper. Like they require it. And it's always been pen on ink in hand. Yeah. This trip twice a week, spending, that's 8 hours probably a week just to do this dumb thing that they've always been like, why can't I just do this online? Well, now they can't turn it in, and they opened up a way to do it online.
Funny how that happened.
Efficiency. And all of a sudden it's like, duh. Like, think about how much more efficient that's going to be, and just even reducing traffic for, that one use case. But like, think about all these little tweaks of things that we used to do that now our back's up against the wall, and we have to open up new, streamlined, more efficient things. Like,
there's going to be some positives here, I think, is what you're getting
eventually,
at, right?
yes. Once the misery's over.
Some changes. Like, obviously, not to downplay the suffering and the loss of life, but
loss of
jobs.
But
net, there's going to be some silver linings here and some takeaways. And I just wanted to show this chart real quick, Joe, because this is from Our World in Data, which is just tremendous at what they do. This was number of deaths by cause in the world of 2017. And respiratory diseases was third with 3.9 million people that died from respiratory diseases. And then the one below that is lower respiratory infections as well. And that's 2.56 million people. So these are all things that are really accelerated and kind of exacerbated by poor air quality. And so, depending on what study you look at, air quality is a huge problem. In fact, the video I did just a while ago, I looked at that in LA, and twice as many people die in LA every year from air quality related issues than people that die in car accidents. So if you think about car accidents, it's so tragic. Like twice as many people are dying from air quality issues. So it's insane. And so hopefully, as more data comes out, and this is truly, from a scientist perspective, an amazing experiment that they get to do, because how else could you be okay, entire world shut down?
Well, that's what I said a week or two ago. We never get that A/B test. We always get A. You get your thing. You never get to test it against something else, and all of a sudden we're forced to. And in the grand scheme of things, this period of time where we have just a variety of data and a variety of inputs will greatly increase our understanding of things like health, air quality, all of these things. We will now have a data set on, which is extremely fascinating.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that was in that BBC article is basically talking about how what's the right way to say this? We kind of been going the same way all this time, and then we put a pause on everything and we see, oh, hey, the air is cleaner. Oh, hey, the water's cleaner. And it's we can actually affect this in some way, because all this time there's always been this global warming and everybody's saying, well, we can't really change this, we can't really change that. Well, clearly we can,
right.
We took a step back, and that obviously that's not sustainable. We've got to get the economy going again. Eventually it's going to have to pick back up again. But if we can affect some changes that we were required and, by necessity had to take on in this period of time and carry that forward, we might see some real significant changes there, you know?
Well, and even on a personal level for people, this might be one of the first times in a big city or in their lifestyle they see with their own eyes their change and the impact that each one of us has collectively. And it might add, even if it's only 5-10%, it might add to their perspective of like, you know, maybe I will look into an electric car next, you know, because I like being able to see downtown LA from, you know, 15 miles away, or like maybe,
or I like being able to charge it at my home and not have to go wait in line to get gas. Right.
I mean,
pure selfishness, but it's totally fine.
Well, just overall though, you know, like things like seeing the water clean in Venice, it might make the locals go like, you know, stricten up emissions and standards of boats and standards of pollution and even, you know, just things like, you know, I don't know, like garbage and stuff, you know, like
that was one of the arguments about, and I have a video coming out next week about kind of so as far as everyone I read and follow from an economic standpoint, they all say we are in a recession now and we don't know how long it's going to last and the recovery, et cetera, et cetera. So how is that going to affect, say, a company like Tesla, where, you know, they have higher priced vehicles, which with gas prices being super low and people being uncertain about financial stuff, how's that all going to work? And if you look at markets like China and Europe, they have extremely strict CO2 reduction goals. And so it's going to force the electric vehicle movement regardless. But yeah, hopefully this will put like a positive light to it instead of, hey, we're the government, you do what we say.
Right.
You know, it'll be the I get to mow the grass, not I have to mow the grass kind of a thing.
Well, so, you know, Tim, your anecdote there about your friend that's the lawyer. Wait, did you say it was a friend of yours?
Yeah,
or it was just
family friend,
okay. I think that's a perfect example of the little just dumb things that were traditional and hung on to for so long, and then it's like when it had to change, it did. Mm-hmm. It was something they could have done 10 years ago, and they just didn't.
A lot of it's probably government things. A lot of it's probably, you know, local and state government, red tape, just, courthouse type of stuff, yeah.
But, I mean, corporations can get just as, you know, tied down by that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
But like, and Ben, I'm looking at you because you always did the workspace thing.
Yeah.
And we used to kind of go back and forth on that because I never had any interest in it. I wanted to work from home. And I could totally understand your side of it, that you wanted to go work over there. But now you're like, yeah, I'm here and I don't think I'm going back.
No, I love it. I love being home. For me, it's
Jenny's right around the corner with a gun. So you love being here?
Yeah. No, but it's it is. It's an interesting perspective. We're very social creatures, right? Humans are. So we still are going to need that. I think it was another Freakonomics thing they were talking about this, saying, well, companies are seeing the value of this now. And in fact, a lot of people, if you look at the data, are more productive at home versus being in the office. However, at a certain point, people start to feel isolated and lonely, and it becomes a mental health problem. So it's not a forever thing, I think, for really any company, just to be like, you're remote indefinitely, unless, you know, they're the kind of person that can work like that, because we do need some of that interaction. But you don't need to get that from your coworkers. That could be, you know, from people you play basketball with or whatever. It could be family. You know, you need to get it from somewhere.
Well, totally, you know? Totally. And back when I worked at the paper, it was like I just fought tooth and nail with them. I almost feel bad for my manager because I was just such a pain about wanting to work from home, and the reason was because I was like, I go into the office and it's like the movie Office Space, where he's like, I just kind of sit at my desk and I just look like I'm busy, but I'm not really doing anything. And that's how I felt. It was like I probably in my entire day of being up there at work, I maybe got like 2 hours of work done, and the rest of the time I'm just sitting there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I could be doing something else. Like, I always had side hustles and whatnot. I couldn't do that for my job, you know?
Right.
And so that I think that's why I was the most annoyed by it, because I was kind of getting started on the YouTube and you know, I always had these other projects and stuff. So there was that. But also just having to, I mean, it wasn't even a very long commute. It was about a 30-minute commute, which is actually pretty short for a lot of people living in big cities. But even that, I was just like, that is just wasted time, and it's wasted gas.
8 hours a week gone.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And then again, I'm at the office just sitting there most of the time.
Yeah.
So
what would be cool? Like, so when I, because I've had teams where I've had to put policies in place like this for things, and one that I like to do was, look, 1 day a week you have to be here, right? Like we had like Tuesdays was team lunch, and we would get lunch catered in, and it would be like, hey, everyone be here for team lunch. That way, you at least for an hour or so get to see your coworkers. You get to ask them how their families are doing. You get to kind of chew the fat, as we would say. Outside of that, if you want to work from home every other hour of the week, be my guest. If you want to be here 100% of the time, be my guest. Like let's make sure let's set expectations. If you're gone, you're gone. We're not going to have a desk here for you that's permanent and yours. We're not paying for that, right? Yeah. But if you're here 100% of the time, we will. So let's set expectations, because humans are never just one thing or work in one way. We're not machines like that. Yeah. So you need to have some flexibility and some variability. And so, but my requirement was always like, we'd have a stand-up meeting in the morning that was 15 minutes long tops, and you could dial in if you weren't there in person. Outside of that, be there for Tuesday team lunch, and that was it. Other than that, no physical requirements, and people loved it. My teams that I manage always had the highest engagement ratings and satisfaction ratings about working there, because, I don't know if I was enlightened, but I just knew that I didn't want to be doing those things. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, why should we? Why, like, questioning, almost like first principles thinking from a business standpoint. Like, why do you need to do this? Is there a value to it?
Yeah. Well, and again, like, I hope that this just helps companies and individuals look at ways to be more efficient with their time, ways to be more efficient with their spaces. Because, think about how many people go to an office to sit at a computer and be on the internet. Like, they're not going to the office to plug into, a 2,000 terabyte server, to edit, high bandwidth video. Maybe they're literally probably sitting on email or doing things that you can do literally anywhere, and they're driving an hour a day to go do that, and then an hour back. Like, all the people that work at Facebook and Google can probably work from home.
Well, I'll tell you, I was going to bring that up, because when I was there at Facebook, that was something I kept asking about. Like, you do work from home, but you also have to be there. Like, they were very against remote workers. Yeah. And they felt that people were more productive on site. Now, granted, if you've never been there or have a clue of what that's like, it's like Disneyland for nerds, okay? So yes, you have a desk somewhere, but you also have copious lounge areas. On Facebook's main campus, we had, I think, 7 restaurants that were all free. So whatever you wanted, like, sushi or burgers or barbecue or whatever you wanted, all free, all awesome. And then they have like a wood shop and like bike trails, and they had a gym with like one of the top CrossFit athletes in the world being your coach every day, all for free. There was a dry cleaning, a dentist, like everything. So the idea was like, just come here and everything else is taken care of for you, so you can have this ultimate creative freedom and be productive. And I think there is some truth to that. But that is a company that makes like, $50 million per employee in terms of revenue, and they can afford to do those things. Most companies, I think, should definitely be taken to heart. Like, how can we have more flexibility? And they'll end up saving money in the end, which is the irony of the whole thing.
Yes.
What
if this is the straw that breaks the camel's back for people owning a car, because they're now working at home, and then they're like, what if I only had to like Uber 3 times a week to the things that I'm going to go do? They're going to be used to like, I can do everything here that I need, and then just go Uber or rideshare or, whatever every now and then. Wouldn't that be? Yeah. Who knows what the ripple
another
effects
thing that was in
be.
that BBC article was, it was saying, and I can't remember where it was. I don't feel like going back and searching for it. But basically, in some city, they had to shut down car traffic or curtail it for some reason, and it found that some people who were, say, driving their cars to work every day and then got on public transportation because they had to, because of this thing, whatever it was, when the thing ended, a certain decent percentage of them kept doing the public transportation because it was just like, all right, this is fine. I'm saving money and it's better for whatever reason.
I love public transportation when it's good.
Yeah. Because you can still do stuff. You can still, like, you can be on your phone or whatever.
Yeah. I used to commute from North County, San Diego to downtown by the coaster, an actual like heavy rail train, not like a trolley, but a train. And it took me about an hour and a half each way. So it was a long commute, but I didn't care. I would hop on it and I would be on email. I'd be eating breakfast, or I'd be sleeping, reading the news, whatever the hell I wanted. And then I'd get into the office around 10 a.m. and then I would be there until about 2, and then I would leave, go to the gym, and then hop back on the train again. But the whole time I'm on the train, I have like, a little MiFi hotspot. Like, I'm productive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when public transportation works, it's fantastic. I think I absolutely prefer it. We've even been thinking about going down to just one car, which would definitely be my wife's
From 7 cars to 1.
We have 3, and we're having a 4th one soon.
Jack needs one, obviously. So
he has one. Yep, he has a Tesla, a little mini radio flyer one.
And a real one. Let's be real. And he's probably getting a Roadster.
Yeah, but we thought about it. It's funny because one of the things we've thought about for our house here was to build a second story above our garage and have that be like mine and Jenny's master suite. So like the kids, you little hellions, can do whatever you do in the house. We're gonna retire to our like suite with the view and like make it just super nice. And we're like, man, it's so much money. I'm like, well, how about we sell the Model X and we just pay for it with that? She was like, yes, like I'm listing it today. Like, get that thing out of here. Give me that second story,
Yeah, especially if you have a Model Y, yeah. So speaking of, are we ready to move on from our random tangent about things?
What else you got?
Joe, it looked like you were about to say something, though.
Well, I just wanted to reiterate that, looking for a positive silver lining in this whole mess, I think is probably a good thing. I mean, focusing on the positive is better than focusing on the negative, but I also don't want to be flippant about like the real human suffering that's going on out there. And we're talking about some big changes, and that always comes with a lot of
uncertainty.
Well, a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of scared people, and just there's a lot of people that are going to suffer through all this. And I just don't want to sound flippant about it. Like, I got really affected last night, and I'm not trying to bring this whole thing down or anything, but do you know who Adam Schlesinger is?
I don't think so.
Okay. Maybe not. Maybe most people don't know him like I do. He was the songwriter for the band Fountains of Wayne. He also wrote a lot of music from movies, like That Thing You Do. He wrote the music for that.
Oh yeah.
He is one of my very top favorite songwriters from the last 20 years. He died yesterday from COVID-19.
Really?
And like, I was almost in tears last night over it. I just could not believe of all the people, he was the one that got taken.
Wow.
So this thing's starting to feel more real to me now.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway.
No, but that's kind of, it's a good reminder that specifically the three of us talking about this, like, oh, it's this big thing. Again, we mentioned this a few weeks ago. Our lifestyles really haven't changed that dramatically. I know that we kind of live in our own little bubbles here, and but at the same time, like I'm always one of those people that I want to start looking into hopefully a better future, and that's kind of what this podcast is our ludicrous future. So yes, we're here with you guys, and just hang in there, because I think in the long run, put your head down, do some new things, ride out the tide, or whatever the sayings are or whatever, but I think in the long run, and 2-3 years, we'll look back at this and be like, oh, that was a pivotal moment in
sometimes
the 21st
it takes
century.
a massive thing like this to create the change that needed to come years before that.
Yep, hit some reset buttons. So speaking of massive change,
go for it.
Oh baby, this was a total shock. There was a lot of big shocks from SpaceX this week and NASA. Did you guys see this? Out of nowhere, I guess SpaceX is making a new spacecraft. And it's called Dragon XL.
Is that the only image we have of it? Because I've seen that image several times, but I'm kind of like, what am I looking at exactly?
This is the only official render, yeah.
Dragon XL, please. Is it SpaceX or is this a Boeing thing?
This is SpaceX.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not the Pro Max R.
Not yet. This is the XL.
We need okay, I'm going to start a nonprofit for space companies on how to name stuff. Because this is not it, guys. This is not it.
But this is an
I don't know. It's if it's a. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's an extra large dragon. How is that not?
How many people can it fit?
None.
So this is not a crew. This is a cargo.
The last one I heard can fit what? 6? You said
4.
4. Not
Okay,
impressed.
So let me tell you what
Dragon
this is.
XL.
Let me tell you what this is. So the cool thing about this is not just some thing for low Earth orbit and for the International Space Station. This is already a signed contract. This will be the cargo supply for the Lunar Gateway. So this is actually this not only did this solidify Gateway for me, because Gateway is again, a part of kind of part of the Artemis program ish, but it's sort of its own thing. But it's basically a gateway or in the orbit around the moon in a really cool, unique orbit that it's a really like rectilinear halo orbit thing that's super weird. And but what's cool about it is it's an international collaboration. So there's already other countries signing up to do their part. Of course, Canada is going to give us an arm for it because that's what they do. But there's a lot of, Japan's working on stuff, like ESA's doing some cool things for it. So it's an international collaboration, which is awesome. And then this is the first time I've really seen a contract like this. And this follows the same type of structure as the commercial crew and commercial cargo. So it's a fixed price contract of like, hey, here's how much we'll pay you to send X amount of cargo. However you get it there, we don't really care. But what ended up getting accepted in one is this Dragon XL, which you can think of it kind of like a Cygnus capsule where it's only meant for space. It will ride inside of a fairing because it doesn't, it's not aerodynamic in that sense. So it'll ride inside of a fairing. It is I think it has some unpressurized, but also pressurized volume. And it will not re-enter. So it doesn't have a heat shield or anything like that. It's just for space. And it's just to send supplies and, food, all that type of stuff up to the gateway. So the Lunar Gateway. The coolest thing about this, I didn't even get to the fun part. This would be on top of a Falcon Heavy, baby.
Nice.
Yes. So the reason is in order to get something out, to send something to the moon, you have to do what's called the translunar injection. In order to give it that 4.1 kilometers per second of delta V it's a very low energy TLI. It's not because that's to get into the whole thing. The gateway is basically where it is because SLS is not powerful enough to get the Orion and the European Service Module any closer than this.
Well, currently the SLS not very capable of getting anything anywhere.
Hey, wait until my video comes out and then you can tell me about it. But basically, the Falcon Heavy is capable of this TLI, this translunar injection, estimating about 10 tons in total. If you take the Dragon capsule itself, the Dragon XL, and the 5 tons of cargo in there within, around there. I don't really know for sure. But the thing is, in order to do that, they will have to do, if they want to reuse the vehicle, they'll have to do a 3-barge landing. So that means they will have to have 3 barges. The 2 side cores will land fairly close. I don't know, we'll say 600 kilometers downrange or 500 or something. And then the center core will be screaming and will probably be something like 1,600 or 2,000 kilometers downrange. Something just nuts. So we'll see.
Will it even have fuel to... Yeah.
Well, that's the cool thing. If the side boosters are able to stay on longer because they're not having to turn around and come back, they can basically use that boost back fuel, negate that and just keep going forward. So therefore the center core stays, fueled down for longer because it's holding on to those side boosters for longer. So the side boosters do more work that way. And that's the whole point of doing like a multi downrange landing. So it'll hold on to them basically. And at that point, the boosters will let go. The center core ramps back up, but it still will save enough fuel to be able to do a re-entry burn and a landing burn. And it will be very, very far downrange. Trevor in our Discord there's no way it's 1,600 kilometers. I will bet you it'll be... Actually, I should look because my friend Declan from Flight Club, we actually finally ran the numbers. I need to double check it, but it is something very far downrange. Very, very,
we got another 100 push-up bet going.
100 push-ups. Okay, Trevor, you're on.
Okay, you heard it here, folks.
I mean, maybe Trevor doesn't
remember. Do they
remember.
have 3 drone trips to land on?
They just built another one recently, and they have just read the instructions, and of course, I still love you, but just read the instructions, is West Coast based, although I think it is now East Coast. But yeah, they have built a third, and so I don't really know, but basically that's what they're going to be doing for this.
I would have called it Dragon Heavy.
That would be cool. Although the thing is, it's not heavy. You don't want it to be heavy. It's actually probably will be lighter than a Dragon capsule, even though its internal volume is bigger.
I hate this.
But yeah,
so what's your feeling on the Gateway in general? Because I kind of like the idea of it, but I also see the argument against it.
I used to hate it. This last year when I spoke with Jim Bridenstine about it, that kind of changed my opinion a little bit, because I saw where it could be this reusable, kind of like a reusable service module. So it's in some way. Here's the deal. Realistically, I like it better than the International Space Station. I think it would have a lot bigger mental and social impact, because it can be permanent presence in orbit around the moon. Like, that will be awesome. All those pictures, the experience from those astronauts, like that much further away from Earth, will just have a lot more striking. I don't know.
Oh, I see what you. Yeah, sure.
That impact would be really, really cool and really important.
You'll see
just getting that long orbit all the way out and seeing the moon in front and the Earth behind.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's going to be an awesome sight.
Yeah, it will be something to talk about, I think, and something pretty special. Because the International Space Station, awesome, but come on, we're ready for something new.
Well, it bugs me that there's only one space station up there.
Yeah.
I mean, to have another one and have it be around the moon, it's pretty cool. And I get the idea that that's a little place where they can kind of serve as a gateway between the Earth and the moon, and from the moon to the outer solar system, at some point further in the future.
Right.
But no, I like the idea of it, but I also see the direct moon route is actually,
Will you be able to see the moon station from Earth?
God?
Where's this disembodied voice coming from?
My video cut out because it got too hot in here. Too much. Too much fire that you're spitting, Tim.
All right. Well, what are you saying there? Ominous voice.
The question is, will you be able to see the moon base from Earth, like with the telescope?
No. I mean, unless it's reflecting. I mean, you'd have to have a meaty telescope.
A BFT.
You would see. It'd have to be literally huge.
I mean, it would almost have to be good enough to see the Apollo landing sites.
Yeah,
in order to see the base.
Yeah, and just from Earth, that's with optics, it's not possible. But this would reflect quite a bit. It'll be a lot bigger than the Apollo landing sites. I mean, there's a chance you could see a very faint little glow, because actually one of my friends, Scott Ferguson, who does this site Astronomy Live, he was able to capture a couple pixels of the solar orbiter that took off a couple of months ago, when it was really far away, and all it is ends up being literal dots, like pixels, slightly moving across. But he got it I think it was almost out of the moon, or pretty far away, and he was able to get it at that point. So I mean, yes, maybe ish, but you're not going to see cool pictures of it. Of
not going to have a Starbucks logo that they're going to put up there.
Well, eventually, obviously.
We talked about that before, right? The who was doing it? There's a fake meteor shower thing that we were doing, and then there was another thing where it was soon they're going to have advertising in low Earth orbit, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Something's got to pay for it.
Planet Starbucks.
I hope so. Oh, there's commercial operations, but yeah, pretty cool. Falcon Heavy, we're going to see way more of it. Super stoked. I love Falcon Heavy missions, and this just firms up Gateway. Super awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we may have a why don't they just?
We do?
That's a thing we still do, isn't it?
Oh, hold on.
Why don't they just do this? Why don't they just do that?
Why? Such a horrible song. I need to update that.
Why do we do this?
Oh, it's
every
so dumb.
week. All right, so let me figure out my little screen sharing thing here. You guys are so much more on this than I am. I'm always wait a second, hang on.
And you've been working from home for how long?
Yeah, I know. Shut up. So, Tripped Out Tech asked, why doesn't Peter J. Beck really build the Electron Heavy? And this was sort of in response, I bet, to Peter J. Beck's awesome tweet yesterday.
This killed me.
It was April 1st, everyone. Must keep that in mind.
This killed me.
I think clearly they just pushed a few together.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean that's hilarious. But I thought, Tim, you speak very well to this about why that is just not a form factor that makes any sense for the Electron. For what they're
and just
for those
doing. Listening, the picture is hilarious. Oh, yeah. It's the title is Electron Heavy Finished, and it is so perfect. It's just a picture of what looks like it literally looks like there's an Electron Heavy sitting in their factory, but it's it's literally 3 cores pushed together and then 2 fairings parked in front of the 2 side cores. But yeah, well, I want to know why you guys think. Go ahead and unshare your screen, because while you guys are telling me why you think it's not a good idea to do, or why we may never see Electron Heavy, I will pull something up. So
I imagine it would just add more weight than you would get any boost out of. Was that a dumb thing that I just said? I just know that there's such a microsat kind of company that have this very specific use case, and adding 2 extra boosters, it seems like a lot for something it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Ben, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, because everyone would just accuse him of clickbait by copying SpaceX, obviously. And we don't want that.
That's why they're not going to do it, for sure. They don't want to be seen as, copying SpaceX. Or because SpaceX, obviously, that was their novel concept. It's not like we had the Delta IV Heavy or like the Titan Heavy or anything, the Ariane 5. Nothing similar to that where it's multi-core, in parallel staging. Definitely not. So, yeah, he'd be copying SpaceX. Do you have any other insight or any other things?
I'll go with Joe's, the rocket equation there, the thrust to weight ratio thing.
Yeah, clearly I never had any insight, so go ahead.
Well, I've got some news for you guys, because
it's a real thing or what?
Go for launch. And there it is, taking off.
Oh, there were others I didn't see. Okay.
So, yeah, if you look at the rest of his feed, he just kept feeding the troll. People were photoshopping an Electron Heavy on the launch pad. Pretty convincing, too.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
This absolutely cracked me up. And then, picture of Electron Heavy lifting off. It's pretty convincing. But, yeah, it will likely, I won't say never, because Peter Beck was also extremely adamant that they'll never do recoverability because it doesn't make sense at this scale. But here's the thing. It's always just about economics, right? They're servicing a market of 225 kilograms to low Earth orbit. How many more customers will they get if they can make that number, say, 500 kilograms to low Earth orbit? What's the market like where will they be able to fly? Will they get 10 new contracts from that? And at what price, right? How does that make sense to develop a vehicle and the engineering time, and then, of course, potentially throwing away or having to recover now 3 with helicopters or whatever, 3 more cores? Don't forget the majority bulk of the vehicle is those first stages.
Right.
And the mass fraction of this vehicle is all about keeping it absolutely as lightweight as possible. So that's why they're not doing things like boost back burns or propulsive landing, because they're already riding about the finest line you can possibly ride to be able to get 225 kilograms into orbit. Anything else detracts from that, really. Granted, of course, a heavy vehicle like this would be able to lift more. The thrust weight ratio would actually go up, since the side cores don't have like anything on top of them to lift. The side cores are so the thrust weight ratio goes up. You can throttle down the center core just like Falcon Heavy and Delta IV Heavy. So that it can ride those boosters longer, but then you're throwing away 3 boosters instead of 1 to put up potentially twice as much. The economics of it just really probably doesn't make sense, and recoverability would be exponentially harder. And especially if they're just barely able to recover and come through the wall, they call it. But their reentry, because they don't do a propulsive reenter. They literally, and besides that, the Rutherford doesn't actually have a relight capability. Rutherford, once it starts up, it's going. It can't relight, and that's why we see the second stage leaves itself in a suborbital. It basically, two things. One, it gets into, it's not quite orbital, the second stage, and that way the second stage ends up burning up. But that's also why we see that kick stage that they have, because the kick stage is what actually ends up doing the circularization burn and doing all the other on-orbit maneuvers, because it can relight it infinite times and just open some valves and go. So Rutherford can't do that. But also, if you did have to have like the center core land for, or recover further downrange, it likely would just even 10, 20, 30% more speed will more than double the heat. Because don't forget, it goes up by the cube of velocity. Reentry heating goes up by the cube of velocity. So if the center core is twice as fast, it'd actually be 8 times hotter. So there goes your surviving that wall, they call it. And yeah, it all just grows. Every little problem you have that's already a problem for a single core, every one of those problems grows exponentially and has all these tangential.
3 of those problems.
Now there's 3 of those problems, and there's 3 of this and 3 of that and all these things. I think if they were to make a bigger vehicle, more capable vehicle, I think they would literally just scale up exactly the 3 core thing is actually pretty inefficient. You get that's why like New Glenn is one giant mega rocket, one stick. That's why Starship is one stick. The multi-core thing, not only is the mass fraction worse because you have more smaller tanks compared to one big tank. One big tank volume compared to 3 small tanks will always be more mass efficient.
Okay.
Because volume goes up by cube compared to the square of the actual surface area. Sorry, these are all weird things. But I think the best thing they could do is say, I think their cores are like 1.3 meters in diameter. If they wanted to do an Electron 2.0, I think it'd make most sense to do like a 2-meter core and put, instead of 9 Rutherford engines, put 15 Rutherford engines or something, and just scale it up in that sense. They'd get a lot, it'd be a lot more manageable and increase their mass fractions and be a better heavy lift vehicle. But I don't think they really would.
Well, I just think it's funny how quickly people want them to do something new. A
company that's been flying for 2.5 years.
Yeah. And their entire business case, unless I'm wrong about this, was to just like pump out hundreds of these things and just be launching from multiple places. And they haven't quite gotten to that. Haven't quite gotten.
Texan talking there.
That's my quarantine speak. But anyway, they haven't gotten there yet, and they're working on it, and everything's going great. And this is fun. He was clearly having fun with this, and other people were clearly having fun with this. But there's a lot of people who are seriously asking, like, why don't they do that? And it's like, well, give them time. Let them get to where they need to be for their business model. And
let them
maybe
pay
then
off
they
the
can
development.
iterate on it.
Let them pay off and start profiting off of the work they've done before they try to expand on their market,
But I mean, let's also give them credit. I mean, that just shows how excited people are for this company and what they're doing.
Yeah. They definitely are. I'd say they're way up there, considering like how long they've been around and the actual the number of launches compared to their excitement ratio. I think they engage with the community on a really high level. They're awesome, and they just do such a good job on social media. They're just such a fun company. So it's hard.
Fun.
Not to,
that's the right word for it.
Yeah,
I really want to go see a launch sometime.
We should. Our ludicrous future goes to New Zealand
if we can ever travel again.
But we have to get there by sailboat.
So
it'll take several weeks.
by dinghy.
Hey, let's do it. We'll row there. We'll be ripped.
Heave, row, you bastards.
But yeah, maybe that's something they will never work on. But speaking of things that they're working on, what are you guys working on?
Man, leave a little bit of segue for the rest of us, dude.
And I'm bonking them too.
You're chewing it. No, okay. So you want me to go?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I always go first for some reason. I just kind of jump in. I got a video on Monday about anesthesia. Talking about anesthesia.
Are you getting into the scary stuff about it?
there's going to be some scary stuff about it. There's going to be some stuff in there that's going to make you never want to have surgery.
Yay.
But there's going to be some stuff in there that's going to make you very thankful that you were born at a time in the last 150 years when this was even an option. Think about the vast majority of human history. When you had surgery, it was literally take a swig of whiskey, bite down on something, and hold on tight.
Oh, yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
The fascinating thing about it, and the thing that kind of triggered me to want to make this video, is that we understand how some of anesthesia works, but we still don't fully understand how it, because we don't really fully understand consciousness. We don't fully understand how it takes away consciousness. So, not to say they're just kind of shooting in the dark when they put you to sleep, but they don't really know how exactly it works. And we're going to talk about that a little bit.
That's crazy. That'll be a good one. I really liked your
Oh, good. Oh, God. Yeah.
your airship one last week, or dirigibles or whatever, was a fun one.
Yeah.
I like that one. Yeah.
Someone
awesome.
tagged me in a thing. Because I'm trying to like branch out and look at other sustainable tech companies. Somebody tagged me in something from air vehicles, which is I didn't get through your video yet, but apparently that was one of them. Hybrid air vehicles.
Was it hybrid air vehicles? Yeah. Yeah. They've got the Airlander.
Yeah, that'd be so.
Theirs is the Airlander.
Is it a real thing that exists? I'd love to go check it out.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's like in commercial production and like you can actually get. I know. Okay, so there's like a U.S. military contract that went out for that one, and that's kind of that's how they got their development and testing and everything. And I think that it's got some use cases that have already been used for like getting supplies to like disaster areas and stuff like that. Don't quote me.
Yeah.
But what I was kind of highlighting in the video is that they produced this. It's all CGI right now just to show what it would look like, but this very luxury liner. It's like a super yacht kind of thing with a bar and a kitchen and bedrooms and this like observation deck where it's like a poolside lounge, but the pool is like the ground, hundreds of feet below you. I thought it was dope. I was like, I want that. I want that so bad to just have that experience. Be so cool.
It is an interesting thing. I mean, I guess I need to get through your video, but is it literally just the couple disasters that killed this entire industry? Because that was kind of the way it was going, right? Was these luxury, travel essentially.
It was a combination of that and a combination of the fact that airplanes just came of age.
And it was like, I'd rather just get there sooner.
Yeah.
I mean, they were way faster. And I mean, I make the point that the first dirigible was from the Zeppelin company was around like 1900. It was 1900. And the Wright Flyer from the Wright brothers was 1903. And I put the two up next to each other, and it's like the dirigible and the Wright Flyer looks like a little gnat next to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, when airplanes first started happening, the dirigible people were like, whatever.
Yeah. Right.
But then the airplanes kept getting bigger and bigger, and next thing you know, there's landing strips everywhere, and the infrastructure built out, and then it just kind of won out. But yeah, it was the Hindenburg pretty much put the final nail in that coffin, because it wasn't just that it crashed and it was a disaster. There were worse air disasters, but that one was on film. And at the time, everybody got their news from the newsreels before the movies, because TV wasn't really a thing yet, or radio. So, but people were going to see the movie and watching this newsreel that was just this horrific. I mean, you've seen it.
Yeah.
And actually, some of the shots in that original footage, it's just like, I don't know who this cameraman was, but you couldn't have staged it better. It was
right.
There's this one shot where it's like, as it's crashing down and there's fire everywhere and there's people running away from it on the ground, and it pans up and it gets right up to the name Hindenburg, and then the fire just like overtakes it. And I was like, you couldn't CGI that better. It was just so well done. Well done, cameraman, at the worst air disaster ever.
In 1939.
That's when you had to have actual talent to do what we do. Now we can just fake it all in post. Back then it was like, nope, you got one shot and that's it, so you better get it right.
Now there's 200 people doing vertical video.
I was just going to say, now there's literally just there'll be hundreds and hundreds of people just standing there filming with their phone, and one of them will be lucky enough to get that shot.
Yeah.
What about you, Ben? Ben Sullins with not Teslanomics.
So, well, okay, so maybe, again, by the time this video comes out, I may have already put out another video because I'm waiting on the production and delivery numbers from Q1 for Tesla, which are going to be very interesting because of the shutdown that happened in Fremont and, coincidentally, the restarting of the China factory. So there's actually a lot of interesting bits. Maybe you already know all the answers to that by the time you see this. So that video is coming out. And then kind of dovetailing on that, a question that I've been thinking about and that people have been asking me about is whether or not, like, how is Tesla going to do with this recession? So that video is coming out next week, looking at it. And the real interesting bit to me there isn't just what's going to happen now, but this is actually when they were founded. If you remember, like, the company was founded, really started coming out in like 2008, 2009, right at the height of the financial crisis. And the only product they had was the original Roadster, which was not a great product and was stupid expensive. And you look like a butthead driving one anyways, right? Like, so the stigma about, like, well, I'm gonna, not only is it crazy expensive and all this, but everyone else is like losing their homes. Now they're homeless. And here I am driving this stupid, expensive little toy thing. I mean, like, it couldn't have been a worse environment for them to start an electric car company. I mean, what did Elon say? Like, stupidity squared, right?
Yeah.
So now it's like, well, okay, so that's where they came from. How are things now and what's going to happen? So that's what I'm trying to answer in next week's video.
Interesting.
It's awesome.
What about you, Tim? What's next week's video?
Hey, guess what? let me share something with you guys. So I've learned something about myself, and that's that the reason my videos take so long and why they get such rabbit holes isn't because the topics are really that insane per se. Like, I could make a 10-minute video telling you, why should NASA like cancel, SLS basically, for the Artemis program. But what if I really dive into it and like answer all these questions that I have for myself? Like, how many launches will we have to do of SLS and Orion in order to be cheaper per mission than the Apollo program?
1 million.
So I actually have every
good Lord.
single...
Tim doing a spreadsheet? Oh, I
do
love you
spreadsheets
even
for all
more
my
now.
videos, but I have every single data point on all of this. So I will be able to tell you, even the hours of humans on the moon, like human hours on the moon, on the surface of the moon, $1 per hour account. So how many Artemis missions will we need to have landed on the moon before it's cheaper $1 per hour than the Apollo missions?
Adjusted for inflation?
Adjusted for inflation. Yep, of course. And I'll tell you how many missions we have to get just to get to. It's a massive rabbit hole. But here's the thing: is like I wanted to answer these questions for myself. So I go down these rabbit holes now, and that's just my thing because, at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of awesome creators that make content on things, and like I think my niche now is just like I'm going to answer the questions that I'm curious about, and this is going to be a 45-minute video now. But I'm on. It
obviously works, but I think
15.
like to your point there are tons of people covering all these other things. You don't need to be the one doing that. Like, you have your way of looking at it. Explore that, and I think that's what people probably appreciate.
Yeah, I'm trying to just do something and this stuff excites me because then I can be like, yeah, I know the answer to this, and I like that. So it's been
that exploring your curiosity, I think, is sort of soul fulfilling, and that is contagious. I think people kind of feed off of that and feel it as well. And you can always tell when somebody's doing a video on something that they really think is interesting, that they're really into, as opposed to I just need to get a video out,
right? Right.
So
that's my hope, is just to provide some kind of just that.
At least with me, you can tell when I'm just clearly trying to get a video out.
Well, I always this is something that it's a huge topic, and I didn't want to just do the SpaceX fanboy thing and be like, obviously Starship will be way cheaper, like, period. Like, duh, obviously, right? So I was like, let me give SLS, let me break it down. Let me see if at least we're making an improvement over Apollo, because that should be easy. We're reusing shuttle stuff, and all the infrastructure is there from the Apollo program still. We're still using the VAB and the launch pads and the crawlers. Like, obviously it should be cheaper, right? So I wanted to give it a go there, and then also figure out, like, could you use Starship for the Artemis program? Could you use anything else to actually get us on the moon in 2024 with NASA certification? Because, of course, I think by 2024, there's a decent chance SpaceX could land a Starship on the moon. They might be there, like, by 2024, which would be in line with the Artemis program. Could they certify that vehicle to make NASA really trust that their systems are safe for human staying on the moon and re-entering from lunar orbit and everything? I mean, look at how long it's taken them to get Dragon flying.
What about, I've thought about this, like, how are they actually going to land something that heavy on the moon? Like, are we sure that the moon can handle it? Or is it going to, like, just fall in and create a huge dent and, like, tip over or something?
The moon can handle it. That's not a problem. It's a matter of and this is something that's being studied, literally, is the plume effects. Like, we're going to have to make sure that the engines, especially something like Starship, it can't fire anything less than 3 Raptor engines at their minimum setting, which is still 300 meganewtons of force. 300.
Yeah. It's going to, like, just leave a big hole.
And the hole that it lands in, sure, whatever, it'll eventually clear out. But, like, that kicks up a lot of debris.
Yeah.
That might go into orbit. And now you have bullets
you
in
might
orbit.
actually create a sort of atmosphere around the moon of particulate matter.
Of just orbiting debris, basically.
That doesn't sound like a thing you want to do.
No, it's really not. My person, and I have to get into this a little bit. I still haven't quite got there, even though I'm on page, 15 or 16 or 17. I don't remember. I think 17. I don't know. But one of the things that I do want to look into is, like, personally, I think Starship will likely, it makes most sense to do a separate system to be able to, like, land on the moon. Some kind of, cargo, something that's just in the cargo bay, or something just to land on the moon instead of trying to land the whole vehicle on the moon. Because landing the whole vehicle on the moon, now you're also carrying around the legs, the fins, 120 tons of dry mass you're also lugging around with you. That's not necessarily benefiting you landing on the moon, per se.
Right.
So I'll get into that. I'll figure it out. Yeah.
You let us know.
And hopefully, fingers crossed, guys, because I'm almost done with this script and all that. So I should be shooting it soon, and I'm gonna try editing in DaVinci Resolve.
Ooh, I'm very curious how that goes.
Yeah, big change over here.
And then, like, learning a whole new editing system to really speed things up.
Exactly. But who knows? Maybe I hear a lot of people saying, like, I should have done this forever ago. I've heard a lot.
I never used
of
it. I know nothing about it. I'm sure it's great. I just
few things that I'm looking forward to as a video creator is, number one, it will actually utilize the resources of my computer. Oh, weird. Unlike Premiere, like, it'll actually utilize GPU and multiple cores and, like, properly, like, export in 2 minutes instead of 20 type of thing. Like, literally for a system like mine, it'll take advantage of all that. But the other big thing is, like, the built-in things like auto tracking. Like, if you want to, like, have text follow something on your screen, it's just built in. You don't have to, like, open up, After Effects and do all this stuff. It's just like, click on that, click. People are saying it's awesome.
I literally am like, it would be faster for me to just frame by frame it and put key what is it?
Keyframes.
Yeah. It would be faster for me to do that than to hop into After Effects or some other program and have to figure it out.
I love After Effects.
I love After Effects too, but that's what sucks about the Adobe stuff is, like, there is the worst learning curve for that stuff.
Yeah, they're pretty. And
it's not
the rabbit
consistent.
hole goes very deep.
They're not consistent between programs either. Like, all of the keystrokes for After Effects and all of the things I'm used to are totally different in Premiere and vice versa.
Splice tool versus razor tool versus cut tool.
Right.
Like, what is?
What are you doing?
Probably what happened. I mean, I don't. I wasn't doing this stuff that long ago, but like a lot of the Microsoft Office products were just bought from other companies and then adapted. And it took them, 15 years before they were like, okay, this is ridiculous. Now we need to make a consistent, like, UI between all of them. We need to have consistent keyboard shortcuts. Adobe's probably the same way, where they just bought all these different apps over the past 30 years, and that's why they're all kind of just thrown together. My guess.
Yeah. So they're that's going to be my next week. Sorry, that was a long one. Dang it. Sorry, guys.
This was a long one. We're
Good.
pushing
Yeah.
2 hours right now.
Sweet. Good. Getting content out because I think people are looking for stuff to watch and hang out. So
In between watching crazed
Tiger
rednecks
King.
with their tigers, you can watch our
exactly.
feature.
Exactly. Well, guys.
We'll see
it?
you
Good one. Good seeing you guys.
Yeah.
in our
our
Ludicrous
future.
future.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you like what we do and you want to kind of help get it out there, you can give us a nice review on any of your podcast streaming platforms, whichever one you use. That kind of helps get it out there. Also, we do have a Patreon set up, so you can join us there at patreon.com/ourludicrousfuture. You can get your name in the credits, meet a whole other group of like-minded people. It's a lot of fun. We do appreciate it. We'll see you there. Thanks.